and welcome back to the online summit series, Yoga Beyond Exercise, conversations to heal and lead us into the new paradigm of peace, harmony, and prosperity. Today's guest is Tamara Lee Standard. Tamara has been studying, practicing, and teaching yoga for over 20 years. She completed a 3-year, 3-month, and 3-day silent retreat in the Buddhist tradition of Vajrayana, and I would consider Tamara personally a teacher's teacher. She has been leading retreats and trainings for many, many years. And from my experience, she brings her authentic self, energy, calmness, and kindness to everything that she does. She is truly dedicated to freedom and how humans go about accessing it in our daily lives. Enjoy the conversation. Welcome, Tamara Lee Standard, to the online summit series, Yoga Beyond Exercise. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm honored. I love this topic. I'm so happy that you're doing this. So happy.
So Tamara, you are a modern mystic yogini. Tell us about that and about kind of how you got into yoga. We would love to hear kind of from you, your expression and how you ended up here. Because I know we both love this topic a lot.
It's a good topic. Yeah, I ended up here talking about yoga beyond exercise with you because that's why I got into yoga. I want to get beyond exercise, beyond the body, beyond Tamara, beyond all the conditioning, and become enlightened and wake up in this lifetime. And I was blessed that I was introduced to it at kind of a young age, I guess. Nowadays, I mean, kids do it in high school or grade school even, which is awesome. But when I was a kid, I played physical sports and I always enjoyed moving my body. That way I like to challenge myself, but I played more competitive violent sports and like basketball and, broke all my fingers and stuff. But then I found it, the actual asana practice came to me in my early 20s. And prior to that, I had been introduced to the Bhagavad Gita from my dad, which was really cool. I grew up in Portland, Oregon, and my dad was a free thinker. He was very open-minded about spirituality and religion, and I would say he was a yogi in his way. He used to get up and do his martial arts type exercises. He liked to do different kung fu type things, Wing Chun. And so I saw this discipline being modeled in front of me as a child, seeing him be dedicated to that and just to reading these spiritual texts. So we had the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads and different Vedic Indian texts, Buddhist texts, and along with the Bible. And, Jehovah Witnesses might come over and knock on the door. Have you heard the good news? And my dad would let them come in and talk about religion with them, or Mormons or whoever, And so I always felt like I was encouraged to explore spirituality. And I'm grateful. I'm so grateful, especially now that I'm older and looking back and hearing about other people's journeys, that nothing was forced on me and that I was encouraged to explore. And my dad just, even when I went to Christian churches and I was looking for deep spiritual answers, because I think I came in this life as a reincarnated yogi. I feel like it just came so natural, but always seeking union with God and wanting to, get out of the suffering life, recognizing at a young age, like you and I have talked about, that it just was suffering and I could see it all around me in the various conditioning, karmic experiences I got to have, growing up in a lot of alcoholism and just a violent kind of culture. And feeling like I don't belong here, like something's wrong, or like, is this really what I'm supposed to do in this life? And there's got to be a way out of this, there's got to be something else. And so I would go to these Christian churches with these widows that lived in my neighborhood. I was surrounded by these old women widows that were all very like church ladies with little dogs. It was like a weird archetype in my life. And I would go with them to church and I was sincere. I was like, I need help. And I remember reading the Bible and having a moment where I had an understanding about something and asking a pastor about it and him saying like, no, that's not what it means. And then me feeling like I was mad at him. I was a kid and I remember I was angry and I went home to my dad and I said, oh, this is what he said. And I feel like it's this. And he goes, well, you don't have to go there. You can read the Bible here. We can talk about it. You can trust your own, perception of it. And so I'm really lucky. Like I said, I feel like now I just look and I think, wow, I really was born to be a sannyasin. I feel like my goal in this life is to realize ultimate reality and embody that. And I get deceived a lot along the way. So I've gotten deceived with lots of things in this life and tricked, and so much so I fooled myself and thought I was supposed to live a worldly life many times, and then come back and like, wait, no, you're here to get awake. You're here to, be enlightened. You're here to realize capital S self. And so you can use anything to do that. You could use yoga asana, but you could also be a householder and a mom, do it that way. Or you could be, a householder with a business and do it through your work and, just devoting everything that you do to, your own personal evolution. And so I feel like I went the traditional, well, maybe not traditional, I should say, but I went the track of learning yoga asana and learning about yoga after I hit bottom in my early 20s with drugs and alcohol and self-destruction. I went that worldly way after growing up in an environment where a lot of that was reflected to me and fighting it. And then finally just feeling like you can't beat them, join them. And like, I'm going to see what this is all about. I remember drinking alcohol as a teenager and feeling that feeling of relief and like I was one with everything and I wasn't self-conscious and there was no fear. And that feeling, that spirit, alcohol is spirits. It was powerful. And I thought, you know what, maybe that's it. This is how you get through life, and so I pursued that for a while and I dropped out of high school and went on the road with Grateful Dead and, and I was just trying to basically transcend Tamara and suffering life. And then I hurt myself, which I know people can relate to. I hurt myself a lot. I hurt myself to the point where I got suicidal and I felt like I can't go on. And I remember just really hitting bottom with that. And then waking up to have this desire to stop self-abusing, which was a really beautiful gift. And it was like my inner self was crying and saying, hey, remember like that you have another mission in this life, you can remember that. And I kind of woke up to that. And then I found different groups that helped me to heal that self-destructive cycle, and I was, I needed support. So I found sanghas that were into being sober and I spent time with them. Various 12-step programs and things like that, and different spiritual groups that were into sobriety. And it helped me a lot, and during that time, I was reintroduced to yoga and asanas. And I remember being in Shavasana. So it was like right before I got totally sober. I took a yoga class in Portland, Oregon, Shivananda Yoga. For anybody that's familiar with that, Swami Vishnu Devananda was a disciple of Swami Shivananda. He had a few disciples that spread his yoga throughout the world, but Swami Vishnu Devananda was a lineage I learned under, and he came to the West with like nothing in his pocket, the story of many yogis, with this direction from his teacher to go teach, because there were reincarnated yogis in the United States and in the West, and you need to go find them and bring these teachings. And so he came and he opened a center in Grass Valley in the Bahamas and Quebec and upstate New York. And I got to go to the one in Grass Valley and do a teacher training at one point. But before that, I took this class in Portland and I was hungover. And I remember going into the class hungover, shamed, feeling like I smell like alcohol and, just embarrassed about everything in my life, humbled by like realizing nothing was working anymore, wasn't happy with the results of my life. Starting to be able to maybe be honest with myself about that a little bit. And then I was in this class where this sweet woman was wearing white baggy pants and a yellow t-shirt that said, serve, love, give, realize, meditate, or maybe I got the order off, but essentially the tenets of Shivananda Yoga, and it said Shivananda Yoga on just a yellow, like not flattering t-shirt, kind of baggy. And she was teaching the yoga and we did some chanting. And then we did these simple sun salutes. And then we did some postures, not too many. We rested between each one. And then we did final relaxation, and I just cried. And I remember I just cried, and I thought, this is what I've been looking for my whole life, this feeling of peace and ease and dissolution and freedom from the bondage of self. And I thought, gosh, I need to have more of this, sort of like the alcohol once upon a time. And, it was like I needed that. So then I started to, become obsessed with yoga, and that the kind of the rest is history, in the sense of, I just spent many years immersed in learning yoga, not only just Shivananda yoga, but I was graced to study with lots of teachers, and then I stayed with I got to study Ashtanga yoga, Vinyasa. I was in San Francisco, and I studied with Kachiananda, who is also in this series, one of my dear teachers, who I'd done, Ashtanga. Got very vigorous yoga, and I got to be tough and in shape, and I hurt myself, as sometimes that happens to people, and my shoulders, my wrists, and then I went to her class, and she was teaching Anusara yoga, but she had been a Jivamukti yogi, so she knew how to help people to not injure themselves, and who, not maybe doing so many vinyasas, and learning how to slow down. And I'm so grateful I found her at that time in my life, because I needed to slow down. And then from there, I kept learning, and I found Kundalini yoga, which then I was like in love with that style for a very long time, and still am. And then I eventually ended up finding that I identified as a mystic yogi. And the reason I use that word, I know it sounds maybe arrogant or bold, but the reason I use it is because I think everybody can be. And a mystic is one who has union with God without the middleman, and one who has like a direct experience. And I feel like that's what a yogi is. A yogi is trying to have a direct experience of union with the divine. And so for us to do that, we have to figure out what works for us individually, uniquely. And I now teach a combined eclectic style, and I work with people more one-on-one or in small groups, where I feel more intuitively led. And I found that I don't teach just Kundalini yoga as taught by Yogi Bhajan, or Shivananda yoga as taught by Swami Vishnudevananda, or Anusara yoga as taught by John Friend, or Ashtanga primary series, secondary series as taught by Patabi Joyce. And I'm only saying it like this just to emphasize that I had been those things where I was very rigid and precise if I teach something and holding the lineage. But I've come to a point where I felt that, no, I've had to adopt what works for me. And so the people that come to my stuff, usually that somehow there's a resonance there, and maybe what I've developed works for them too. And then hopefully that gives them the courage to trust themselves and figure out what works for them. Because ultimately we're scientists, and, as yogis, we're not the same. There's no one, yoga for everybody, but yoga is for everybody, I believe, who wants to have union with the divine. And so you got to work it out like a scientist. Well, some days I like a little more vigorous yoga. Some days I want restorative, like you just learn to trust and figure out what you need to get your prana to flow in a manner that allows you to be awake and conscious. And so I'm grateful to all my teachers. And I'm grateful that I've had the opportunity to share yoga with many people as well. It's very humbling, and it's a great honor.
Do all those different styles of yoga, do they all present the philosophy of like what's happening in the body with the prana and the energy and
Do they all?
meditation?
Yes.
I mean, I know several of the styles of yoga that you practice, but I'm just curious for the audience's sake, because you have so much experience with so many different styles of yoga. If
Yes.
somebody hears that I'm a yoga teacher, they always ask, the very first question is, what type of yoga do you teach?
Yeah.
And I give them my little 2-minute pitch about what yoga is, and then I share this how I teach. So I'm just curious with all those different styles of yoga.
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel that some of them more than others, that I think that's why I got very drawn to Kundalini yoga, because I found that we were talking more about the inner, the inner winds, and we were talking about the prana and what's actually going on with some of the deeper meditations, and how to reach states like samadhi eventually, but starting to just get into pratyahara, being able to withdraw from the sense doors. And I feel that we would talk about that more. So it was helpful for me because I had been doing a lot of the physical, and I've been doing, I feel like I had been doing the yamas and niyamas as best as I could, in terms of the ethics, living an ethical life by ceasing to practice self-destruction. I was able to then recognize when I was hurting others more easily, and I was just starting to clean up my life in so many ways, like lying and all these things would just start to fall away, and with that awareness. But I found that Shivananda yoga and Kundalini, those two really talked about more the philosophy of yoga. And both of those lineages, I felt like Shivananda was very holistic. When I went to my teacher training there in 2001, we would practice karma yoga together. We'd practice, hatha yoga. We do the physical practices. We would eat together, we would chant together. Bhakti yoga, jnana yoga. We would, study scripture together. And I felt that really was a beautiful experience to have, because I got a chance to get a taste of what it's like to be a holistic yogi and see how it's in all, you can be a yogi whether you're cooking and eating or you're doing your poses, or you don't even have to be super flexible. It's nothing to do with that. And so I'm grateful that they emphasized that. And then later Kundalini went a little deeper, and as well as Tibetan heart yoga, which I studied a little bit of, and I studied with the teachers that founded that in the United States or whatever, and I had a chance to learn more about the inner meditation practices that definitely revolutionized a lot of my practice. And I was like, wow, this is what it's all about. Okay. The sun and the moon channels like colliding or coming into the heart, coming into the center channel, all that beginning to have more of a tangible, that's funny, tangible and visceral. I just combined that, tangible. Anyway, tangible and visceral experience of that, and meditation. And so I had to learn more about meditation ultimately, which those meditation styles teach too. But then I went to study Tibetan Buddhism, and I found that woke me up to things in my inner body and my inner world that I hadn't quite gone as deeply with, I'm grateful for that too, It's nice that there's just the truth, the ultimate truth is always looking for you. You can run, but you can't hide. You know what I mean? It's like, it's always looking for you. So I kept finding it in all these places. Even Christianity, you know what I mean? You can find it everywhere.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It doesn't matter like how it comes to us. Like I know that you and we are like these deep spiritual seekers for our whole lives. We just want to know the meaning of it all. We want to know ourselves. We want to feel connected. We want ultimate. We want union with the divine. I want to know God. I want to merge with God. And I'm laughing because in my experience, it's like it's here all the time. So whether you call it a spiritual path or anything else, it's always, like you just said, it's always seeking us out.
Yeah.
That external world is a mere reflection of everything we're cultivating on the inside. And I think that's such a big point, to make maybe to an audience that is unfamiliar with the kind of ultimate version of what yoga is, that way beyond exercise. And I know for me, when I've cultivated a practice of asking myself these deep, deep questions, because I know it's going to reflect to me in the external world. So I don't ask why to my inner self. I'll ask it to people. But because if I ask why, it's always just going to show me like how everything happened already. And that's how I repeat my cycles.
Oh God, yeah.
That's an important piece to bring up. So lately it's just, what do I need to see in order for me to have a fulfilling life or a fulfilling relationship or whatever it is that I desire. It's profound.
Yeah, it is. And it's profound to be in this place now. I was thinking of how many years we've been on this path and been able to reflect with each other. It's nice to have spiritual friends like you, and just to share that with anybody listening now, that just how important that is. I think to have true spiritual friends, that you can call on when you need somebody who's willing to call you on your stuff and reflect back maybe a dark side of your personality that you're not seeing, or just the hole you've fallen in that you can't seem to see or see the way out. I'm so grateful for my spiritual friends that have been able to say, hey, Tamara, over here. Oh, I don't think you looked at this. Did you look at this? I don't think you're paying attention to this, and I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe I'll pay attention now. Thank you. Because that's, I think that at this point in my spiritual growth in my life as a yogi or whatever, wannabe yogi, it's really been so helpful to have people that could help me see where I need to grow now. So because I feel that like right now in the world in 2020, I was thinking about that before this interview, and just how it's been the year of seeing clearly, and we are able to see so clearly the shadow side, the dark side of things and things we don't like. And I feel it's easy to be like, well, I don't like that. It's out over there. Oh, that's not me. I'm not like that, and like, but I know in my teachings that I've studied over the years and the truth in my heart that if I'm seeing it, like I'm a part of this, like I'm, you know what I mean? Like it's maybe it's coming from me, you know what I mean? Like it's like, this is something that I'm witnessing because it's in me too. And so I'm feeling like, wow, so this is so powerful of a time to be able to then accept like some parts that are really ugly, to really accept them and allow for them in a way. And then I think that there's going to be a birth out of that I'm excited to see. I don't know what it's going to look like yet, but I can feel it. Like I can feel it bubbling up because I can feel my own resistance to want to accept some things. And I've been thinking like part of my work now has been like looking at that resistance. You know what I mean? Why am I resisting this? Like, why can't, like Yogi Bhajan would say, like the other person is you. So like, that's like, okay, so if I don't like this other person, there's something they're doing, or a politician even, like say, whatever, like anything, so you'd be like, I'm not, ugh. And it's like, well, the other person's you. Oh, no, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not me. It's not me. And it's like, no, that is. And it's been so powerful to see like how I've been motivated by greed at times in my life, where I can see a similar reflection. Like maybe I didn't go to such an extreme where I've, I like, for example, I'm gonna think of a worst case scenario, like there's a lot of pedophilia that's been revealed in the world. Maybe I haven't done that in this lifetime, but but I can see in my own life where I've been greedy, wanting something, that I have hurt other people to get what I wanted, and I've been willing to do that, and I regret that. So there's something I think to this, in order to progress, at least this is my gut feeling, my intuition at this point, is to learn to allow and just forgive and be like, wow, I can forgive that in humanity. And it's hard. It's hard, you don't, it's much easier to kind of be like, just nope, brush it away. I don't want to look at this. But like to really just look at things and really be willing to say, like, I see this and I'm willing to work at forgiving it, not to condone it, not to say it's okay, but to just have some mercy about it. And then I don't know, like I said, I feel like something's going to come from that energy of allowance. And I think, I mean, you and I have talked a little bit about this in the past too. So, but I do feel what you resist persists. And so that's why I've been more of a, I'd say, mystic yogi in the sense of, or tantric yogi, yogini, who use a feminine, but is because I feel like I have to be in the world and see these things. And for some reason in this lifetime, I've had to see a lot of darkness personally, I've had to see it. So I have to come to peace with it, and I wanted to run away. I did a 3-year retreat. I wanted to run away from the world and be in a cave and be in my own little thing. I don't want to see no evil. You're no evil, and like, but I'm here in the world now, and it's like, I feel like the ultimate test of the modern yogi is to be able to be in the world, to embody this level of awakening and freedom while in the world, in the world. I'm here, I incarnated for a reason, and I and so I got to be here, and I got to acknowledge what I'm seeing, and that's where I feel we can help each other. So I've had friends help to forgive my own self, and you've been included, and other people I've known where I've had a hard time forgiving myself, and therefore been intolerant of others, and had this resistance energy, and it has persisted. And I keep seeing it, every love relationship or every, teacher disciple relationship. It's like, oh, the same theme coming through, maybe it's me, and maybe it's something in me that's doing this. Then maybe I'm resisting accepting that. And maybe if I just accept that, it won't be there so much anymore, and so, yeah, so I've been really working on that lately. And I just share that with anybody, to encourage you, if you can, to really look at that resistance and, really look at it deeply and feel it. I really think we got to go through it and feel it. And as a yogi, we learn how to do that by doing these postures that are hard sometimes, or these kriyas that are challenging, and working through the resistance. Kundalini yoga brings that up a lot. You have your arms in a weird position, and it's like, oh, I don't want to keep my arms up, I hate this, and like, why? And just keep working through that, and then all of a sudden, when you let go and you stop resisting, arms are up, no pain, you know what I mean? And you're like, wow, all these channels are open, it's like amazing. It's the resistance that's often the problem, it's the resistance to facing some discomfort. And,
I think that's a good point, the discomfort. As soon as humans feel some discomfort, we automatically have like a thought that that's not good. And then
yep.
that lower brain fight or flight comes in, and we scurry away from it. It's like a survival technique. When the wisdom is like, if you want to be free of the suffering, the liberation that we talk about in yoga, you have to actually embrace it, because that's that non-duality. It's embracing all of it and allowing it to be like no resistance, no resistance. That resistance things will come up throughout our lives over and over and over again. Doesn't matter what we're doing. And I think that is key to, if you desire to be free of suffering, we should, because it takes work. Like, you can call yourself a yogi, you can call yourself a healer, you can call yourself whatever you want, a psychologist, you can call yourself anything, a doctor. But the real true healing happens between yourself and yourself. Like, nobody can give that to us. Like, I believe that we can, if we have a physical ailment, problem, that it can be self-healed on a certain level. Doesn't mean that everybody who has a situation, because that situation is there for a reason. It's there to help us in some way. But yeah, but that's the work, right? When you recognize, you got to start, don't have to, but when we desire that freedom from suffering, that liberation, to like tune in, and when things start to get rough, not to
exactly. And that's it. So like that, to not to is like, that's the, whenever we do that, I feel like for myself, I can give many examples. I mean, if you're an addict to anything, it could be sugar, could be caffeine, could be cigarettes, could be, I don't know, pornography, could be gambling, whatever, it could be social media. It could be something that's even kind of benign, but if you're doing it to escape that, you know, like, whew, that's where your work as I think our work as a yoga practitioner, you know, a yogi wannabe, you know, basically yoga beyond exercise. Here's the practice. Like, ooh, can you just stay and feel that without reaching for, you know, or your cup of coffee,
Or your phone.
or your phone, or your,
Or
you
your
know, whatever, something to just distract you from feeling that discomfort. And that's why retreat is helpful. I mean, I can't deny it, you know, it's like, because you get some sustained practice of that for a little while where you're like, okay, I'm just going to sit and feel this until it subsides, if it ever does. And then the fear of like, is this going to subside? This is why I don't want to face it, because I'm afraid if I start crying, I'm never going to stop, you know? But the thing is, it's like, it's always, there is some point things shift. They always do, you know, and it subsides. And I think the more we practice that, the stronger like fortitude we have, you know, to just be like, this too shall pass. Yes, I have experience of that before, you know, I've sat through this before, or something similar, you know, and then we strengthen those muscles, those like inner muscles, obviously not physical, but those, well, maybe they're physical if you're not reaching for something, but you know, you strengthen that muscle of abstaining and just being basically committed to your initial vow if you're a yogi, which is to connect to, you know, your ultimate reality, no matter what. No matter what. You know, I fail all the
that is
time. So
very
I'm not coming from any sort of high point here. I'm just saying this, like, I know what I'm supposed to do, at least I think I do. I don't know, but
well, and I think that's what the original point you made is the importance of Kalyana Mitras, right? Like
yeah,
spiritual friends, people, you know, friends, you know, people that you grow with. And, you know, those people can even morph and change, but not to hold on to something that is not relevant anymore. And I think we have a hard time with people with that, because we do that with each other. We try to hold on to something, a part, like, because they're reflecting back to us a part of ourselves. And
yeah,
that part sometimes needs to dissolve and go away. And when that goes away within myself, sometimes that person then falls away. And I know for myself, I get very attached. I know this is like one of my big teachings. And I have just had to learn to be fluid with myself and with everything around me, including people, homes, like things. That's just been my experience, maybe because I have such a fierce desire to know myself. Uh, but to be honest about it, like I thought I lost, and you'll know my favorite, I have very few material possessions in general that I love. And it's like this one old sarong and I couldn't find it. And I was like, and I just immediately, I was like, if it's gone, you're not going to die. Like, it's fine. It's literally just a piece of cloth.
yeah,
Literally, it's you are making it into something because it's been with you, you know, for so long, like a security blanket. And then I just had to keep relaxing. It's literally, I have sewn this thing. Like, it's the only thing I've ever spent so much time keeping together. And I just had to relax. And I knew, and it's so silly, right? But imagine doing that with like bigger things,
mm-hmm.
you know, because it doesn't diminish how I felt about that sarong. And I found it, by the way. But it was a great moment for me over the 3 days I couldn't find it.
Yeah,
To watch my mind and to see how it was feeling, and to let that emotion come up inside of me and to grieve. I grieved for it for 3 days. When I thought it was gone, I was grieving. And that's something, as much as I was attached and I didn't want to be attached, I still had to feel the
mm.
grief and not feel shame because it was a sarong. But I tell the audience now the sarong is very special. So I am going to be more careful with it now, So then there was this subtle gentleness that was like, okay, well, I found it. Now, how can I change something inside of myself? So that was like to be more observant and more grateful. Like so many things, it gets very, very subtle.
Oh,
But
yes.
it's like just checking in all the time. It's all day, every day with
Yeah.
how I feel and allowing and then changing. You're not staying stuck. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. That's yoga beyond exercise. I mean, right there, being able to change internally energies or what you're focusing on, or, like you said, with the sarong, which I think everybody can relate to, but I can relate especially to the part you said about trying not to feel shame about being attached. So it's like once you embark on the spiritual quest, then you're supposed to not be attached to things no more, right? It's like all these weird, I mean, I was just talking to somebody about it this morning here, where we were just talking about like all these ideas that I have about being spiritual now. Now I can also flagellate myself with those too. Like I already had things to beat myself up about with before, but now we can throw out a whole new thing of like, well, I shouldn't be attached to things. Oh, I should know better than that. Yep, I should have understood. I shouldn't have reacted to them. I was like, okay, forget all that. And this is where I'm thinking lately, especially for my own personal growth. And, and I think, I mean, others may identify with this, like allow it. No, I am very attached to this thing. You know what I mean? I am, and it's okay. You know what I mean? Like it's okay. Because part of that prana getting jammed up is to say like, no, I shouldn't be this way, and it's like, but I am naturally. And I feel like that's where, like for me, I had to go through a very rigorous yogic training for many years. And especially when I was in my 3 retreat and studying Tibetan Buddhism, where I had to try to conform and change myself till I hit bottom with that. Till I hit bottom with me trying to manage and control and change everything. And that's the polarity or the kind of hypocrisy, or I'm trying to think of the right word, that with yoga, which is, I think about this a lot too. It's funny to me of like a yogi, well, I am manipulating my inner energies. I'm doing all these things, breath of fire, I'm alternate nostril breathing. I'm doing these things to manipulate energy to change essentially how I'm perceiving reality, to change the way the energy is flowing. But then there's this other path, which is like, I think, there's like these 2 ways of going about the spiritual path. You can try to manipulate, or you can also allow, and let go, and I've been lately feeling like, at least for my personality and constitution in this lifetime, that it's like letting go is starting to seem a lot more appealing, because I, like I said, I've done it almost neurotically, and maybe I've just done it incorrectly, but I've seen how I've had to like hit bottom with me trying so hard to be good, to the point where it's like, I surrender, not good, you know what I mean? Like, not good. And, and that's okay. And then the goodness actually reveals itself, and I don't even have to try so hard, because there is an underlying goodness, I believe, in all of us. I've touched it, tasted it. It's God, it's the divine spark within us all, and it's there. And it's when the resistance stops that we can, I think, feel it and embody it. And that, but we all have our different paths to get there. So no wrong, or I mean, I would say like, I love, like, I loved all these disciplines I took on. When I was doing them, I loved them. I hated them too, but I loved them. And I got a lot of pride, and I got my ego enhanced. Like, well, I'm getting up at 4 a.m. to do my meditation. How about you? I'm a real yogi. Or like, whatever, I'm a vegetarian. I don't drink or do any drugs. I don't drink coffee, whatever, like, but I found that for me, I've just had to get all this stuff leveled and just be like, at any point I could be anything. You know what I mean? At any point I could be anything, as long as I got this human condition. And then I feel a little bit more ease. My heart softens. And then I can forgive myself for not being a very good spiritual practitioner, even though I studied a long time, and I can forgive others for doing things that I see as very ignorant, you know, and I could see that, yeah, you know, it's like Jesus said, forgive them for they know not what they do. All of us, all of us, you know, and that's like a heavy teaching to me lately, especially with everything in the world right now, you know, going on.
That's the biggest lesson or teaching from Jesus that's come up for me lately.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive me, Father, for I know not what I do. Like
Oh, beautiful.
just just coming to a not knowing anything and just being completely open to what needs to be revealed.
Mm.
And that feeling like the most peaceful place I can hold and be, you know? It's
I yes. Wow. I just was thinking that's such a great mantra. Forgive me, Father, for I know not what I do. Like, I don't know. That just really hit me when you said it in the personal I form.
oh,
For I know not what I do. I mean, unless, I mean, it's just, yeah, that's so beautiful. And then I think you can cultivate that mercy and that tenderness for yourself, which then again, I feel for me anyway, it allows for the prana to flow in all the ways I was trying to manipulate it to flow. It actually starts to happen because I'm not tightening myself up and judging myself so harshly, you
yeah,
know.
there's like this life force energy that's just available to come through and
Yes.
to present itself, and it has no, there's no claim on it. It's like there's just this infinite pranic energy coming through this finite pranic body, and somehow the two have started to make peace. You know, it's, you know, we're taught to just be such busybodies, to just be doing, and there's so much pressure to be something, and I've finally just let it all go. Like it just can't, even when I've said I've let it go, you know, it's a constant refinement of just, oh, then here comes another wave again of like me feeling like I need to do something. But
Yeah.
you know, you said it earlier. You said that about the science, like the yogi being a scientist. And I think that is so true. Like a true seeker, not, I don't, like a seeker, just any seeker of truth is like the greatest scientist that will ever be in existence. Because to be a truth seeker means you are willing to just allow things to happen, for things to be, to not know everything, to not be right all the time, to know that, you know, God knows everything. I do not, you know. I remember coming to that when I was a little kid, and just because, you know, I observed so many adults and I was
Yeah.
like, that does not make sense, right? I know that you had this experience too.
Yeah.
And now I'm finding myself in the situation of being the adult. And it's like, wait a minute.
Wait a minute. I know.
I'm not going to fall for the trap. No. But
Yeah.
there's just so much surrender and joy. I don't know. I also feel this joy from that, because when I don't need to do or know or be anything specific, I can just be available.
Mm. And being available, I mean, that is also that is the, you know, that is yoga beyond exercise, because it is, you know, being able to just empty yourself and be a channel, you know, and essentially yogi too is embodying the divine, you know. So I mean, it's very hard to be available because I find that, I mean, we have agendas. My ego has got an agenda all the time, even if it's about yoga. I mean, and that's where I've enjoyed talking to you so much, and so grateful you're doing the summit and bringing this in the light, because of yoga being so watered down these days, how the meaning of it to me has been lost as far as what originally drew me in, and as far as like this desire to like heal and to feel union with something greater than myself that like is benevolent. Could there be such a thing? And really wanting that more than anything in the world, and going to any length to try to experience that. And I feel like that that being yoga, then all the other stuff about like, well, now we got to market it, and if you're a yoga teacher, you better brand yourself and have a really great Instagram and some good pictures and some words of wisdom attached to this great asana shot, and it's all like kind of contrived. And I feel like I came out of my retreat when I did that 3-year hiatus from the world at Diamond Mountain. When I came out, that's when I saw all that stuff. It had like blossomed in those 3 years, like crazy town, and I was sort of horrified, and I thought, oh my God, this is what yoga has become. Like, I guess I can't be a yoga teacher anymore. I don't know, maybe I was wrong. Like I don't think I can do this. And then I spent some time trying to evolve and figure, well, I'm a modern day yogi. How would I do this? How can I communicate in this world, in this modern world, and also talk about the things I love, and share about like what I think yoga is, what it's been to me, and what my teachers have shared with me, and what I've learned through following various teachers. And that was the other thing I just wanted to touch on while we had this chance to share together with this audience of people that are also interested in this topic. Just that, just the thing about the teachers and all the things that I've learned, I've thought, well, a lot of my teachers have actually fallen seemingly, and it's been painful. Like a lot of teachers that I admired and I put on a pedestal may have all of a sudden came up with charges of sexual misconduct against them or something. And then I had to deal with an internal struggle of like, okay, I've been promoting this, so my ego is attached. Okay, so this is where my ego is coming in. This has nothing to do with the yoga. I mean, it does a little bit. The yoga, I know the techniques work because I've done them and they do, but all of a sudden I'm like, well, I've been promoting so-and-so, and now I just heard they had some sexual misconduct, so I look like a fool too, what I mean? So we're in this chain together, and I'm telling everybody, oh, this person's so ethical. This is why I look like they're so ethical. This is like I used to bring a picture of one of my teachers to class, like, this is like a picture of ethics, like real, like, here you go. And then the stuff came out and I was like, oh my God, what have I've been leading people astray. I feel so bad. And actually just recently on Thanksgiving, I had a great talk with my dad about this, my dad is my first yoga teacher, really. He's, I told him about that and how I had struggled, especially with Yogi Bhajan, with my sadness about, or my disappointment rather, about his behavior when he was teaching things I really appreciated. But how could this behavior come from the same person, And then my dad said, well, maybe some of these teachers do this on purpose at a point eventually in your growth with a teacher, to show you not to follow them anymore, to not be too mesmerized by the finger pointing, we have those stories, right? Like the Buddha's pointing, or where, like the wise person pointing at the teaching or God or whatever, the moon, and you're like looking at the finger and worshiping the finger when really, what are they pointing to? Like, pay attention to that. This is, forget about them. In a sense, I mean, not to disrespect them or anything, but just like, it's not about them. They just were a message carrier. And they don't even need to be perfect, because if they were able to be a channel in that moment, even with all their imperfections, like then they made themselves available. Like somehow they made themselves available in that moment to be a channel of truth. And if you're a truth seeker, you probably pulled it out of them. Your good karma may have actually pulled out that truth so you could see it. And that person, for some reason, you were attracted to them. It doesn't matter why, whatever conditioning. And, so for me, like Yogi Bhajan, he was like kind of fatherly and had long beard. And, I don't know, I just liked him. I liked the fact that he promoted morality, ironically, I mean, I love that about him. He was like dressed very modest, encouraged all the women to dress modest. I was like, this is a great teacher. But he had his own stuff come up, and I don't know, I wasn't there, so I don't really know for sure what happened, but I've heard enough that made me question. But I really feel now like all my teachers are off the hook, that I'm like, oh my God, thank you. You were such a great channel. It has nothing to do with how well you kept up your ethics or not. Like, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't apply to me. It doesn't matter. And it's like, what a freedom that is. So I just, I mean, I'm sharing that too with anybody who's been a long time yoga practitioner or even a new one. If you're coming new to yoga and you see your teacher do something that's like, ooh, I don't like that. You know what I mean? Like it's good to pay attention, but also to see, like, you don't have to, you're not emulating the teacher per se. Like the teacher is hopefully pointing the way to truth, the way, I would say. And that if it works for you, great, follow it, go for it. You know what I mean? But don't need to get hung up on how well they're doing at following it or any of that, you know. And I just feel like for me that like softened my heart and helped me to forgive and let go and just feel also for myself, because I have failed many times as well, you know. And I know that people have looked to me for certain things. And I had a student recently, even she even said, you know, I liked you better when you preached peace or something. I think I told you about that. I think I was at your house then, and I really hurt. And I thought, wow, I guess you know, am I I'm not sharing that now or whatever. And I had to really think about it. But I saw that, yeah, because I had shared some things encouraging freedom that were maybe not politically correct or popular, right? Or I don't even know, maybe popular is not the word, just whatever reason, they went opposite of what my some people I knew thought. And they were offended by it. And it was a great lesson for me too, to just see like, well, just like my teachers, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have to agree with them about everything. You know, the teaching is about liberation, period. The rest is like, it's like just conditioning to argue about or compare yourself or contrast with, but that doesn't really matter. It's like, did you get the teaching? You know, which is that you can be free in this lifetime. And that's at least that's what I feel like. That's what I was impressed with with yoga. And that, yeah, you can be a Jiva Mukti in this very lifetime, you know. And
Yeah, and I think the other precious point that I'm getting from what you're sharing is that the work is ours to do. Like a teacher is only pointing out, they can't do the work for us. And that, if they could, you know, there are some teachers that would do the work for us, but that's not how that's not how it works. We have to do it ourselves. Yeah, I've thought about the teacher thing for, you know, a long time. And that's ultimately what it is. You're going to recycle through whatever needs to come up, whether it's with a teacher or anything, it doesn't matter. But
well, and the teacher sometimes has to show you the shadow that you're unwilling to tolerate, you know. So for me with Yogi Bhajan, I can tell you when I was younger, yeah, I had some sexual misconduct, you know. I'm guilty of it. And you know, I may think mine wasn't as bad as his, but whatever, it doesn't matter. I think almost like the teacher has to show you the thing that you haven't forgiven in yourself, whether they acted out or, you know. And again, it's like, or isn't it not consciously necessarily, although you could project that on them. Maybe he did it consciously, wake up, you know, this sangha that was following him, and it was all divinely orchestrated plan. Or maybe it was just like our karma to pull that out of him, because we're also in this human realm together, and a lot of us have to deal with this. Who's perfect? You know, and that, like, you know, Jesus said too, okay. And I mean, I'm just pointing, this is in my head right at this time, but like, you know, he who cast the first stone, you know, like, judge not, like, you know. And like it's like, who has not sinned here? Like, you know. And so we're expecting these people to be perfect, and people do it nowadays with politicians too. And it's like, we're expecting these people to think, who are you, you know. Like, and so I think that, like you said, we have to do our own work, and that's really valuable. And that's why it's nice to find somebody that cheers you on. And maybe the old model is the Piscean age, is where there's this teacher outside of you that you're like trying to emulate. And then, but maybe the new model is that you have your peers that cheer you on. Like you and I feel like are cheerleaders to each other. And I'm so grateful. And, you know, and I encourage people to find your tribe, find your people that cheer you on, you know, that make you feel excited about doing your work. And don't shame you for it, but also don't let you off the hook. Hey, you gotta look at this. I love you. That's why I'm reminding you, you know?
yeah, I think that's exactly a great point. Find your people, because it's important. You know, you and I had that talk before about when two or more gather, it's powerful, it's exponential. We're all connected ultimately, but it helps. And you don't want to be around people that are bringing you down. You want people that are going to support you. So look at that. Look at why you would surround yourself with people that bring you down, and don't blame it on them. It's something that you need to look at for yourself. I mean, our lives are our greatest teachers. Everything in my life is pointing to every single thing I need to know about myself. It's so, that part of it is fantastic. And when you tap into it, it's magical, because ultimately we are in control. And eventually it just goes into a flow state, right? That's the ultimate, the just allowing it to go through us. And as I had a conversation, I think people will have seen it by the time this goes up, but Michael Cotton was talking about holding that infinite with the physical, like with the actuality of what we're experiencing right now through these vessels, and like holding them both, because it's not a one or the other, it's both. And that's been my big personally my big teaching in this life. I would have loved to have just stayed in the cave.
I know. And you've been to some pretty good caves. Yeah.
We've been to some caves together.
Well, we've been to the cave where Jesus meditated in India together. Well, that's amazing. You think about that. Wow. I mean, that's incredible.
It is. What an experience we've had in each other's lives. Yeah, so to the audience, Tamara and I have, without making a single email or phone call, have crossed and merged our lives in several different countries. India, we did actually meet up, but we didn't have a plan. And but other countries, other places, just so much in the time that we've known each other. And yes, we we meditated together in a cave that Jesus was known to have meditated in India, right on the Ganges River. That was so special to be there with you.
Oh my gosh. And the other place on that trip that I just thought of too, that really was one of the best meditations of my life, if I'm going to, categorize like that. But like, I remember at the land of the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the TM place, that the ashram there, the Beatles went to, and, it was kind of popular. And I know you interviewed Prudence Farrow, but just saying that meditation also was so beautiful and so profound, just being in that place, the energy of it, I remember feeling so powerfully. And yeah, I mean, and here we are now in the United States years later, but I'm glad for that experience, because I feel like it was a touchstone. Like I got to feel something there that, I still can remember, and it left an imprint that, I'm very grateful for. So, I mean, I say, like, I've heard people say too, like, I stand on the shoulders of giants, but I have felt very humbled this last year, because I went through, I went through a deep dive into spiritual life, and then kind of a FU to it for a little while. Like I really dove in for about, like 15, 16 years, maybe, I'd say even maybe 20 years really. But I mean, including like sobriety and everything, just living this life of, striving, really, like striving to wake up. And then I went through some things that kind of broke my heart, and it was enough that made me kind of turn away from a lot of things I had studied, and think, I don't know, maybe I was wrong about it all. Maybe I was wrong about all, but maybe I just go back to the world and forget it all. And but these things like that trip and like those experiences are just like still in my heart, and they like show up at the times when you're like ready to just be back in the world. It's like, no, hey, remember me over here. There is this amazing, awesome reality that you have touched, and that you can perhaps abide in, more consciously all the time. And should you be willing to, hear the call, and pay attention and hear the evil and accept it, maybe, is the thing. I mean, just be able to, just integrate, really allow for everything. And so I'm grateful that, I'm just grateful to have shared that journey with you and to stand on the shoulders of giants, of the teachers and masters and yogis and householders and just kind beings in the world, and that have gone before, and all of us really, that that we help each other so much, and in our own journeys, in our own ownership of our journeys. That's the thing, I think, for this age. And you and I have also discussed sovereignty and being able to own your journey and take responsibility for yourself and the things you've done and the consequences. And like you said, don't blame, just be like, all right, here I am. It's interesting, how did I get here? You know what I mean? Instead of like, how could these people be treating me like this? Well, no, how did I create this situation in this life where I would have allowed myself to be in this situation? Or what have I, and looking at it that way. And that is yoga beyond exercise. I mean, it's like so profound when you start to live this life so deeply examined, and taking full, complete ownership and responsibility. I'm grateful for people that encouraged me to do that, and didn't shy away from it, didn't do the work for me, like you said. Like, I have wanted people to do the work for me. I have thrown temper tantrums at teachers. I'm like, you didn't do the work for me. You're supposed to, take me out of the suffering, or have me in your inner circle, and I'm gonna feel so special. And like, it's like, no, none of that. It's like, it's all been useful to realize that I can take full and complete responsibility and be awake as a sovereign being now. And it was a journey of self-destruction, basically, small self, small s, to sovereign awakening and self-discovery, capital S. That's where I appreciate people that are on that journey too. So to all the people that are interested in yoga beyond exercise, I look forward to perhaps crossing paths with you at some point, and connecting on a deep heart level on this journey.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Tamara, for joining us today and being so open and honest about your journey and sharing your wisdom. I appreciate you so much as a friend and as a teacher and just as a human.
Oh, thank you. I feel the same. I appreciate you so much, and I've been excited to share about this and let people know that that there are people talking about this, and I appreciate you being bold in creating this and bringing it into the light and finding all these speakers and all the work it took to put this together, because I know it takes a lot of work. And so thank you for doing that, and thanks for loving and accepting me. And again, that's the other thing I feel as a yogi so helpful, is to learn self-acceptance. And sometimes that's where friends have come in, like yourself, that when it's reflected back, it's a lot easier to give it to yourself. So thank you for that reflection of just radical acceptance, and it's helped me so much. And so I hope I can reflect that to you and continue to embody it, so that it's just reflected in the world, and it becomes easier for others to also embody and feel. If we all just like really radically self-accepted ourselves, or I'm sorry, the word self-accepted ourselves, but accepted ourselves. And if we really did that, like, what a different world this would be. So much of the fighting is just like, I don't accept myself, so I won't, and I can't accept it in you, so you've got to get away and over there, and got to shame you because I can't accept in myself. So thank you for embodying that to me. I love your dreads. I love your self-acceptance, your radiant expression of yourself. I've known Julie for 30 years too, and seen that many incarnations of appearance as well. And it's just beautiful to see. I feel you in your sovereignty and your power, just like your radiance, like naturally. And I want to say, where I'm at right now, it just started to snow. So I happen to be in Medford, Oregon. I'm kind of at a secret ashram, so I'm not gonna, it's the people that don't really want to be found, but they happen to have this beautiful space, as you can tell, and I'll just show you the picture here. I really like this
Love that.
behind me. And yeah, that, and then if you look outside the window, which I don't know, you'll have to let me know, Julie, if you can see it, but
Yeah. Here.
it started to snow. Can you see? I don't know if you can see it, but I just was sitting here talking to you, and I in this interview have gone through sun, as you remember at the beginning, with bright sun shining on, to now it's snowing outside. So take that for whatever that means to you symbolically. But, yeah, I'm grateful to go through the changes. This too shall pass.
Yeah, I had a Native American teacher for a while, and she said that the snowflakes are all the dreams of all the souls coming
Oh,
down. That's
wow. Well, that's very beautiful. I love that. All the dreams of all the
all the
souls coming
dreams of
down.
all
Wow.
the souls. Yeah, because they're all different. There's no two snowflakes that are alike.
That's true. Huh.